Okay, so we have the Deviant Moon Tarot by Patrick Velenza, and this is one of the decks I had bought earlier on in my collecting journey. I was really drawn to the artwork. It was just very out there and kind of spooky, which something I dig. So let's go ahead and take a look. It comes in this nice set. This version has a spreadsheet. So open it up. It's actually the full moon spread. So moving our way around, we have the Inquirer, present day. We have past influences, subconscious influences, secret desires and wishes, hidden forces, events yet to come, surrounding environment, influence of others, spiritual forces, and final outcome. As you can see, each one of the places in the spread has a different moon phase on it, which I think is very cool, and it goes with the theme Deviant Moon very nicely. So taking that out, it's in a smaller box, so it's not a huge deck of cards, which is nice. It's a little longer maybe than standard tarot, but about the same size. This is from US Games. Comes with a little white book that needs to stay in there. Pretty standard little white book, nothing to write home about. A little blurb on all of the majors. For the minors, same situation. It has reversals as well, if you read reversals. A place for notes in the back, which I think is nice if you like to write notes in your books. There's a couple spreads, the Lunatic spread and the one that came in the spreadsheet. And just a little bit in the beginning. Before this, here we go. Just about the creation of the deck. So all in all, pretty little, pretty standard little white book, but good to have nonetheless. The cards are good quality. I like US Games cardstock. I don't have a problem with it. For mass market, I think it's done well. The backs are gorgeous. They have the different moons together to make a little artistic design. And the color scheme is really dark and muted, just like the deck. This isn't going to be a bright and colorful deck. Like this card has some color on it, but it's not what I would call like a bright deck either. Even the like flamboyant Page of Cups has, you know, a darker background. It's very consistent, very beautiful. So let's go ahead and look through the cards. First title card, gorgeous. It has Judgment playing his trumpet, and just, you know, standard title card, very pretty. You can read a little bit about the author here, Patrick, on the second little title about the author card. And into the actual deck. So the first card is full. I love that he's wearing like pajamas, almost like old-timey pajamas, and kind of prancing in a pond or a lake, whatever this might be, with some real spooky fish. And instead of a dog nipping at his ankles, he has this like gnarly toothed fish giving him a little nip. Again, we're going to see the moon. That's going to be a very common theme in this book, or in this deck, the Deviant Moon Tarot, which makes sense because it is about the moon. Magician. I love that Patrick gave them the Magician 4 arms so that he can have one for each one of the suits. You can also see he's on the stage and there's a crowd watching him. Very confident man. Little moon. Again, up in the corner. But yep, he has his wand, his pentacle, his sword, and his cup. the High Priestess. Look at her. Look at how gorgeous she is. And I love when they have the moon, not full moon as the face, and then they'll put the dark side of the moon behind it. It's a very interesting just take on the High Priestess. You know, usually she would have her phases of the moon above her head, but now it's actually part of her head. And again, she's real spooky, which I like. And then the Empress, instead of having 4 arms, it looks like she probably has 4 breasts. We can only see 3 of them because one's under the cloak. She also is kind of part flower here, which is gorgeous. But yeah, even, you know, warmer cards like this are going to be very eerie in this deck. And her feet, her boots, whatever they are, kind of remind me of like bird talons. I really like her. The Emperor also has those creepy little talon feet. He is stabbing a bowl and looks super evil. He kind of reminds me of Jafar almost, with his squiggly little beard chin going on. But I also just watched Aladdin, so that could have something to do with it. The Hierophant, kind of a hard card to love for a lot of people. I do enjoy his little doll in his pocket. It's kind of representative of, you know, being the teacher and kind of knowing more and having influence over others. And his hands almost, I go back and forth if he's reminding me of a lobster or of like a fountain tip pen. A fountain pen for his hands. So interesting to think, you know, if it is a fountain pen, if that was the inspiration, just being able, you know, writing the teachings and having that be so important to everyone. The Lovers, look at these guys. Snake biting his leg. Let's zoom in a little. You can see there's a little bit of blood down there. They are getting into it. They like it a lot. They have a full moon behind them, kind of beaming one little beam down onto them. But I really like them. She's got her Cynthia hair, if you've watched the Rugrats, if you were doing stuff then. The Chariot, I like that he is just like a big head, which is very bold and not something that I've seen before. He almost has like a steampunk look to him because these little horns remind me of like a steam spout. But yeah, he's definitely intimidating. His teeth on his helm. Justice. So this deck does 8 for Justice and 11 for Strength. I you know, those could be flip-flopped. I've always liked Strength to be 8. I just feel like it follows the Fool's Journey a little better to me, but that's okay. I still love this deck. I like that they have an open eye. Of course, the dark side of the moon is closed. That's just kind of a recurring theme that we see in there. And then these creepy fish type creatures below. I don't know what they're about, but I like them. Just one of those spooky aspects of the deck. And, you know, I like the swords are held high and level, just representing that justice isn't going to be swayed one way or another, that both eyes aren't closed because justice isn't blind. So all in all, I really appreciate this card. The Hermit is so wild. He is so spooky. The bright red mouth in contrast to like the stark body and, you know, the blood red toes as well, and their little creepy fish friend with his spiky teeth. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous card. Ugh, I love him. And then Wheel of Fortune. It's interesting to see because it's almost like a game to me here. It looks like they're gonna like pull the crank and spin the wheel, and this person's almost like a contestant. And And I think that's an interesting take on it. Very cool. And the little tail wrapping around the stool with little dainty shoes. Very cute. Creepy cute. Strength, so we have strength here at 11. Strength is really working on this, I don't know, amphibian probably type thing. Maybe it's a fish, but a lot of, you know, these types of creatures in this deck. And, you know, it's interesting that they chose to have a more masculine figure and strength, looking like they're really fighting for it. Because, you know, traditionally you'll see a more feminine figure with a lion just kind of opening its mouth gently, and the lion's not struggling as much as this looks like it's struggling. Hanged Man. Love the Hanged Man. I love that there's a pocket watch hanging off of the shoe. Just kind of reiterating that aspect of patience that I always associate when I pull the Hanged Man. You know, like, just take a second and wait. You don't need to rush into anything. I like his purple pants with his red shoes. It's a very nice contrast in the outfit. Oh, and then we have this one, Death. So Death, they didn't write Death on it, they just numbered it, which is always, you know, interesting to see. Little skull dudes, the rebirth aspect, because Death is pregnant here, or at least has the look of being pregnant with the swollen belly, kind of smushing a little child there, but just, you know, it has a nice transformation vibe to it, and it's just striking. The skull, absolutely gorgeous. Little spiky feet too. Factory. There's a lot of factories that you'll see. It's kind of strange, the environment they put it in, because you see like the, you know, an older looking ship, but a more modern factory, just kind of eerie landscape, almost like a post-apocalyptic scene. Temperance, balancing. So again, we have that moon phase where we have the closed eye and the opened eye. Beautiful angel wings. There's a lot of angel wings in this deck as well. Like fallen angels is kind of what they remind me of, more than the traditional happy angels. But yes, Temperance. The Devil, look at him, such a cool guy. He's very tricky. He looks like he's gonna pull something, and I really like him. He's so cool. Whenever there's a card that has like the contrasting, like the bright color mixed with all of the muted backgrounds, I think it's just so vibrant and it looks gorgeous. All right, and we have the Tower. Such a ominous card in any deck, but I think it's so cool how the figures are not much smaller than the tower itself. And to me, it's like, you know, this is calamity, everything's collapsing, but it's not too big that you can't build it up and put it back together again. So I really like the, you know, size contrast here. The scale. The Star. Ugh. Look at this creep. So it's almost like the moon, but it looks like half of her head's almost gone, but it's probably just the shape of it. But again, she's got the closed eye on half of her face. Her feet are almost like, I don't know, they have like little balls on claws, so I don't know. I like it. It's a very strange look. And again, you know, for this to be such a hopeful card and so positive, it's still just so eerie, the way this deck reads as well. The Moon. So this is one of, let me see. Yeah, this is the cover of this little box here. Is the Moon for Deviant Moon, obviously. We'd want that. But I love that they're puppets. Just dancing, kind of not what they seem. They're gorgeous, and you know, it looks like the like a scene that you would see in a puppet show, like the royalty dancing around, being very over the top and kind of caricatures of themselves. Then the sun, oh, look at those two. Again, they have their awesome red toenails, looking very fierce, bright, happy. We have like almost a bright color here with the sun, but it's still very muted, even though it is so much lighter. And, you know, they're having a good time dancing around. I like them a lot. And they feel like children too because of the scale of them, but they just have such a, I don't know, that it's weird because even the ones that are supposed to be children in this deck definitely look older. Judgment, so we saw him earlier on the title card and the guidebook. Yeah, Judgment guide. So strange. Look at the child. It's basically nothing. You can see a mouth, no other part of the face, or maybe that's an eye. Hard to really tell, but I love it. I love that we have the closed eye and the opened eye. It's just breathtaking, gorgeous deck. And then the world, so kind of going with the sea creature theme that we've seen a lot in this deck. We see the world. She has, she's a mermaid, but she has like human-faced fish above her, the Ouroboros wrapped around her, and then some almost demonic-looking creatures below her. But, you know, play on the traditional world. I like that the wreath is an Ouroboros because I really love that imagery and that symbolism. Again, this is almost like a palace behind her with a ship, so a very nice sense of completion. And then next suit that we're going to go into is the swords. So we have the Ace of Swords first, and as you can see, the minors are illustrated just as beautifully as the majors, which is something I really love. I always get frustrated if I see a deck and the majors are amazing and it looks like the minors were just kind of thrown together to make it a full deck and not just be a majors only deck. So when they're thought out like this, it's just breathtaking to me. So Ace of Swords, you can see very strong. It has the thorns around it for that figure. The Two of Swords, this is so cool. So it's almost as though they're stabbing each other in the head, or themselves rather. So look, the sword that they're holding is going towards them, or maybe it's behind their head. That would be something that you'd have to interpret for yourself. But they're wrapped around each other, or they're one, but their figures kind of intertwine. So, you know, making that choice, you kind of sometimes can feel like you're making that choice against yourself, and you can feel like you're split like this when really you're one and you don't need to be poking yourself in the face either way. So this is so cool. The heart is her heart, or his heart, its heart. They have 3 little legs there, so I don't know what's going on, but it's such a nice like homage to the traditional Pixie RWS version of the heart, or of the 3 of Swords, but I love that there's actually a figure. So they love their figures. The whole theme of the deck are these little creepy guys, and this is no exception. Obviously crying because it's not a very positive card. The resting, instead of being in a tomb, it almost feels as though they're buried. So I read this as they're buried underground and the swords are sticking in the soil. I guess you could also say, oh, they're just laying there, but I think that the way that this is faded here, it looks like they're actually buried underground. So, you know, taking that rest, that contemplation, just not letting other things come into you. Ugh. Look at the toes. They're like disconnected, but they're so cool. Ugh. I love it. And you still have the open eye, even though they're resting, because that's just how the moon phases work. This guy, the 5, kind of taunting the people that, you know, that they are victorious over. We got the white flag in the background, but sticking his tongue out, so it's not very sportsmanlike. But look at his little booty, very cute. It's kind of a little jerk though, but you know, you don't want to be a sore winner. This is absolutely wonderful. So the voyage, instead of being, you know, the rough water and the smooth water, they're actually in a hot air balloon, which is almost boat-like because, well, it has the edifice on the front. And I think it's very interesting that, you know, it's a suit of air. Excuse me. It is a suit of air, and it's a suit of thought, and the air that's going to fill up this balloon is coming from their head. So it's like their thoughts are filling it and taking them to the next part of their journey. And again, the imagery, like instead of having the rough waves and the smooth water, you see something's on fire and they're going towards a place that's not on fire, which is preferable to fire. 7, so they're going to just eat the sword. It's very, very spooky. Pardon me. You see one shoe's on, one shoe's off. Kind of precariously grab that. They're going to swallow up the sword whole. So yeah, and you can get a close up and look at the detailing on the headpiece. It's just such a well done deck. The artwork is so good. We have the 8, you know, feeling trapped, so it's like almost, oh, I'm trapped in this tower. The moon looks like they're kind of pulling them in, breathing them in, which could be something, you know, you're trapped in your own illusions and you need to kind of open up your eyes and take your blindfold off, let go of your captors. The Nightmare. Ugh, the Nightmare card. I love this little like gremlin, because even his hand has like a little mouth and it has little teeth there, but you can really see the distress in the sleeping figure. And then the little cat. I love cats, but this cat I don't think I'd want because it's very kind of gross. Yeah. Oh, and look at this. They're in a box. They're feeling confined. They're stabbed in every direction. There's not really any coming back from this. So it's such a nice perspective. Not nice, but it's just a different perspective than the traditional 10 of swords where, you know, they're just like kind of laying in the ground. It's a more passive stance. It's more defeated. Like this one, it looks like they put up a good fight to me. Again, nice toenail colors, always popping. But it's a very just striking image. Court cards, page. Kind of lighting the way with his little monocle thing. Yeah, very interesting. And this almost looks like a machine. The dark side of the moon looks almost like a machine in this case. The horse demon thing looks like it's ready to charge, ready to go. Usually this is the knight that's kind of speeding farther or faster than everybody else. Very regal. She's got a little bit of blood on her sword and she doesn't look super happy about it. Maybe she feels bad about what happened, but yeah, Queen of Swords. Ugh, so cool. Excuse me. We have the King of Swords with this little guy, this little creature guy on the bottom there, and holding what looks like a globe, and he's just very calm, sitting there thinking about it above him. Very cool. Ace of Cups, so again, figures, and she's gorgeous. It looks like the moon's either giving or taking from the cup, but this is one of the cards that she really does look peaceful. She looks happy. I think she's gorgeous, and I love just the energy behind this card. This is very interesting because we have a very realistic skull in this kind of partnership lovey little card, but there's blood dripped on the floor. Where's that from? Don't really know. Is it wine? Did they spill, or is it something more sinister? Also, her nipple is a moon, which is just out of this world. So cool. Friendship, look at this. And they're in a fish. How wild is that? It's just, they're having a great time partying in this fish's mouth. Looks like not a very great fish to be in with those teeth, but they don't seem to mind at all. I love this, the apathy behind it. Like, oh, look at all these cups. Toss. I don't even care. So bored. And, you know, the ship in the background just kind of sailing away, but they couldn't care less about anything. And this one, look at this poor guy. It's like all he can see is the good. I feel like the bad is just, or the bad, not the good. All he can see is the bad in front of him. I feel like this is his inner thoughts just making it worse on himself. He's not paying any attention to these cups here that are fine, that are full. He's just, all he's hearing is negativity, and all he's seeing is, you know, the bad part of whatever happened. Very cool. And a little bit brighter outfit as well. Another puppet show. So, you know, 6 of cups. We're going to have the children aspect. We have the kids in the front who still look like creepy little adults. Excuse me. I need to get water for my next one of these because I am talking a lot. But we have the puppet show. Very nostalgic. I'm sure everyone's been to a puppet show when they were little. So the illusion is actually art, which I think is very interesting. So drawing how they see the world and kind of making that perspective rather than actual life, rather than looking at the figure behind the canvas. Very interesting take on it, because this almost gives me like an 8 of Pentacles vibe, just with the doing and the building and the creating. But it's nice to see it a different perspective here as well. And then we have the 8 leaving, so, you know, kind of saying, you know what, I've had enough of these cups, I'm going somewhere else. Interesting that the figure is facing us instead of, you know, walking towards the mountain. Off in the distance, you kind of see a little more of the determination and the reasoning on her face behind that. I love that this is a genie, because I've always read this card as the wish card, and now it's an actual genie, so you're getting a literal wish. Excuse me. And what a wish that must be. He has the third eye too, that's open. Very cool. And this guy's shocked at his luck. In the happy family, take a look at this little moon baby. No mouth, just eyes. A little more developed down here, but they're all happy. No rainbow here, but we do have a wheel for a leg. And again, that ship imagery and a castle in the background, it looks like. Yeah, I like it. And it's funny because you can see some of the other suits too, all the suits. So the baby has a pentacle, we have the sword on the father, the son has a wand. So kind of a completion there as well, tying it in. I always want to see a fish in a Page of Cups peeking out of the cup. It's just something I love seeing, something that, you know, when I was learning tarot, this is how I would always picture this card. So I love having them there. And his little tongue has a light on it. We have a whale in the background diving as well. Very cool. Very pretty card. So this is cool because it's not a steed that they're riding. It's actually, they are the steed, which is kind of cool. And the seashells, just very watery. And it's a very fish-like armor and tail as well. full moon in the background too. The Queen of Cups. So I've always had, you know, I'm a Pisces. I've always associated the Queen of Cups as my signifier. I love her. I think she's beautiful. And this deck is no exception. Just gorgeous. So I love her colors. I love her cup. Just kind of catching the water coming out. And again, same imagery, very consistent throughout the deck with the boat and the castles. And then the King. Look at him. The beards that are faces are so cool. But very regal, and the color palette for this quartz is very purpley and watery and beautiful. Pentacles, so we have a dragon with that Ace of Pentacles. He's so cool. Look at his wings, look at his horns. Look at how amazing this pentacle is with kind of a galaxy behind it. And then the Balance is kind of like a belly dancer woman. Takes a lot to dance and do it well, so that's a nice way to pull this together. And it looks like she's in the palace. She's kind of on a red carpet, maybe? I don't know. But she's very mysterious as well. Like, it's kind of like a mystery in that Balance. And she got little moon tattoos. So this card is so cool. So they're, you know, they're building, instead of building like a church or build castle, cathedral, whatever it is that they're traditionally building, they're building each other. So each one is working on another in like a continuous chain. And, you know, we're carving, we're, I don't know, stabbing eyes, whatever that might be, drawing a face. It's really cool to see the collaboration here. We have this little miserly guy who's very concerned with his pentacles and this kind of death-like figure behind him. Hell, maybe? It's very spooky, but we have the skeleton. Just seems very concerned, needs to let go, feeling attacked from all sides. So awesome. We have more of those kind of factory steam plants behind him. This one makes me so emotional. This, like, look at how sad this guy is. Just kind of creeping with their big boobs, wanting to find some shelter, not able to see it. You know, there's an eye in the church type area, you know, with the stained glass here. Whatever, you know, where the salvation, where the help could be coming from, watching, but she's not noticing any of that. All she's kind of seeing is the desperation. And she has more of those balls on claws situation on her toes and her hands, her fingers. And then this guy, giving, so we have a lot of little hands holding them up, and we're offering one. It kind of seems like it might be like a vending machine, like an opposite. It's such a cool imagery, and we have extra legs here, but, you know, kind of sharing, helping, doing something, either giving and receiving that help. They are rather raised above the person that needs the help too, though. So, you know, maybe feeling a little superior, giving that help, or a little ashamed to need to accept it. It's an interesting kind of feeling in this card. So you have the 7, waiting for the harvest to come, stabbing the tree, which doesn't seem super productive, but it's okay because this deck is amazing. We have the factories behind, just kind of waiting, like, you know, we've done a lot of work so far. Let's see, not much more to go. Soon we'll be able to pluck our pentacles and go on our way. 8, so we have this guy building. So instead of, excuse me, it's kind of like almost like an assembly line, it looks like, because we have the forge, we have the pentacles coming out, they're carving it, kind of pulling this string, which looks like it might cause all these gears to move. So a very intricate card. Some of those steampunk elements are in there for me as well. I like the molten metal going in to make these pentacles. It's very cool. Very nice. Then we have the 9. So instead of having a bird on their shoulder, their head kind of looks like a bird to me. So this is really cool. Another little wheel foot. So they're just, you know, look at all this stuff I did. And it's also very interesting to see there's not a lot of abundance in plants in the Pentacle suit. Even the tree that we saw in the 7 was dead looking, even though it had the pentacles on it. So this is just kind of, again, the mood of the deck. But you know, she's still pretty pleased. This kind of reminds me of a purse, I think, with the chain. I don't know what it is, but I like it. I like this whole I am the bird. And then interesting 10 of Pentacles. You know, usually it's, oh, look at all this abundance, all this wealth that I have, but what's the cost? Because this person is being used as a table, and they seem to not even worry about that at all, because they're just concerned with the fact that they have what is complete for them. So I really do like how that comes together, because it can show a darker side to this card that people might not think to look at. Like, okay, we have everything we need, but is that really what we need? Court cards. Look at him, Mr. Fix-It. I love that they're, again, very steampunky, like a machine put together, steam coming out of his head. The shoes are amazing, so bright and then so dull. Kind of like a hodgepodge little guy. And another one, this one, instead of having like a fishy aspect to themselves, trying to make them, you know, kind of that horse, I suppose, they're more machine. So this suit is definitely like the steampunkiest so far. Lots of steam. They're gonna just chug away with their little wheel body thing. The Queen, look at all her little babies. So she's so maternal. She's got all these little babies or dolls, but I don't know. They're very sleepy. They're very sweet. They're ridiculously cute. And look at her. She's beautiful. She's just, I love her. She almost reminds me of Mrs. Potts for some reason. Not really, but it's just, that's kind of what a feeling I get from her. Mrs. Potts and all her little cups, chip and whatnot. So King, so he's just, you know, he definitely has it all. He's not worried about money. He's just kind of like, here we go. Let's go. Let's do this. Here's my pentacle. Do you like it? Of course you do. All right. And then wands. Look at this crazy, like, pea, silky, creepy baby thing. I don't know. I love it. And we have the scarab beetle on her wand, butterfly wings for her, and surprisingly, a more like full plant life, some more nature in this card than we saw in the actual earth suit. This is so cool. They're like little onions, I suppose. Yeah, they look like onions, and it's like they're using the pentacles kind of to, or not the pentacles, oh my gosh, the wands, pardon me, the wands to turn into a kind of claw, clamp to pick up the onions. So a nice balance there, is an interesting use for them. But he's, you know, looks pretty pleased with himself. Like, yeah, you know, I got this, no worries, anybody. And then I like this one because she's more like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna go. But I'm gonna kind of contemplate these wands, this action I need, and she's grown into it. which shows she's like part of it. And these are more living, more earthy almost, which is crazy for the fire suit. And then her hood is so interesting because it's like, oh, what is that? Maybe negative thoughts or like doubts of her going on to her journey. I don't know. Time to go though. 4, look at this celebration. You know, it always kind of seems like there's some sort of union going on, maybe like a wedding, a party, and with the vines wrapping around them, it absolutely reminds me of a wedding. They look like they love each other. And look at this pod that the wands are holding up. It's so good. Yeah, it's magical. Fighting, just like, oh, look, we're all just going to hit each other with sticks. This is such a pointless card to me. And like, you know, just calm down, think about it, stop fighting with each other just to fight with each other. But the figures are super cool. Look at her. I like this one a lot because it's so creepy, so different than the others. Full moon. Oh, excuse me. Full moon. Ah, and then this one is of the big box. That's the card here. So, you know, victory, they're kind of coming back, and instead of being on a horse, it's like they're in a throne, like a floral throne. But everyone seems real happy. These hands are very realistic, which is off-putting since nothing else in the deck has been that realistic. I'm not sure how this was made, if maybe it is pictures of real hands, because it's just so lifelike. I don't know, but very cool. Then we have 7. So, you know, kind of defending yourself, trying to fight for what you believe in. She looks kind of scared, or he, you know, it's hard to tell with these figures because they're very androgynous. But it's hard, you know, are they afraid? Are they ready to stand up and fight and keep others at bay? Or do they need a little help? Not as confident as you'd see in some other decks. And there's also a little bit of wounds on their body. And then we have 8. So kind of moving. I love that there's a bird with a message, kind of emphasizing that it's a messenger, like it's something's happening, someone's gonna tell you something, let's go. And she's about to chop him down. Looks like in one swift movement with a scythe there. But yes, very interesting. I like it when this card is more than just like, ooh, here's 8 wands flying at you in the air. A little more interesting to me. Okay. So now we have 9. So, you know, they've had a long day. They've kind of weary, resting after hauling all these heavy wands around, tired. But, you know, this guy's still gonna go. Look at him. Look at his face and his little feet and his claws. He's so cool. And even though this is a large load, he looks like he can handle it. Not worried about him at all. Love, love, love this guy. Page, I love the stilts here. It's so interesting. Definitely a playful court card here. The trees in the background are gorgeous. It's a very wintry theme for wands. Looks like they're walking on ice. And look at this. So they're kind of a bug, beetle type thing, and then they're on this, what is that, like a flea or a tick? Something gross with this nasty mouth and almost a skull. It kind of reminds me of Cubone, the Pokemon, just the way that the head is situated. But never mind. But yeah, very creepy. The knights are so creepy in this deck, and I love them a lot for it. But yeah. And we saw the butterfly wings on the ace, and now we're seeing kind of like a, I don't know, more bug wings. Very buggy. So this queen, her boobs are all on one side. The other side's just very bony rib cages. She has extra arms. She looks like she could kick your ass, so please do not mess with her because I don't think you'll be coming out on top. She's so cool. Yeah, she's awesome. And finally, last one. Look at him with all his little children. They love him. He's very tender holding the hand. I like him a lot. Oh, look at, and he's like a crystal in his wand. Yeah. Kind of sad to be done because this is such a good deck. I really like flipping through it. I'm glad I got to do that with everyone, with all of you. But yeah, I'll be posting more of these. Obviously, I want to show off my collection since I have so many, and just some of my favorite decks, maybe some of my decks that I don't love as much. Talk about those as well. But Deviant Moon Tarot, they also have a borderless edition that I want so badly, but I just can't because I already have this one, even though I really, really want it. So borderless edition as well. Gorgeous, gorgeous deck. I've seen the borderless and I love it because it's always nice to just have the image come out of the card without being kind of blocked in by those borders. But definitely one you should pick up if you don't have it already. Highly, highly recommended. Very interesting kind of look inside yourself or inside the person you're reading for when you're using this deck. So thank you, and I will talk to you soon.